I always said there's no way I'll ever move to California, no way I'll ever move to Los Angeles. Got a job offer, do you want to work on the Mars rovers? Okay, fine, I'll move to California, I'll move to Los Angeles.
I was an undergraduate, and I was actually working at Marshall Space Flight Center when Pathfinder landed. Working that summer as an intern, I actually was aware of the Pathfinder landing, and I was like so surprised. I had no idea that anybody did anything like that. You know, well, these people sent a probe to Mars and it had a rover and they drove it around. This is the coolest thing I have ever seen, you know? And I was like, how much fun must their job be? And at that time, I would never have ever dreamed that I could actually be part of the team working on the very next rover that we landed on Mars.
And we're going to set the suspension parameters tighter. So we're going to leave the differential at 12 degrees and set the bogey at plus or minus 12. We don't believe that this will trip.
In reality, it's the rovers that made me come here in the first place, even before I started college. A lot of people that I've worked with in the past have told me that they got interested in the space program because they saw man land on the moon in '69. And I wasn't around back then, but I was in school when the rovers were launched and when they landed. So yeah, the rovers are really important to me in that respect because they are the reason I'm here. And then we do a pre-drive front left HAS scan, and then we start our drive.
When they were landing, I had actually about 3 semesters left in my undergraduate career. Didn't think I'd ever be working on them because, well, they were supposed to die before I finished up my junior year. And then they just kept going and going and going.
You know, being a new student out of college, coming to work on this mission, I was very optimistic. You know, I always believed that it was going to work. Against all odds, we were going to make it work, you know, and of course at times it hits me, makes me very emotional. You can see me in some of the landing footage. I think I'm hyperventilating on screen when we first saw the images come down from Mars. It was so monumental to see the vastness of what we were doing.
This has been one heck of an adventure, and it's like a really good dream. I never thought I'd be doing it, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Hey everybody, Scott Roberts and Jerry Hubble here at the OpenGOTO Community Live program. We are still kind of maybe a little bit hungover from being up late last night.
Yeah, it was a late night.
Yeah, I kind of peeled myself out of bed this morning going, wow. But it was so fun, you know, it was really great. And you know, it was really, it was a unique star party in that I think, although it's been done before, it hasn't been done often, where you have a northern southern hemisphere star party going on, you know, with the amateur astronomers, you know, from not only northern and southern hemisphere and within the, you know, your own kind of time zones, but we had, you know, we had Gary Palmer from the UK on. We had locals here on too, you know, so we were live streaming. You know, Rick was doing Jupiter and Saturn, and we had, you know, Dave Ing was starting to get data out there in California, which was kind of cool. And so it was a kind of a global event. We had people watching from all over the world. We
had a good diversity of topics too to talk about.
It was actually really great. It was
a lot of different things.
It was in some ways, you know, I've gone to a lot of star parties, Jerry, and I know you have too. But one of the star parties I would go to that I felt was very enriching because there was so many different things going on, was the one of them was the Riverside Telescope Makers Conference. Another one would be Okie-Tex. The Golden State is another, great one. Winter Star Party is another great one,
Right,
So,
right.
but we probably talk to and get more uh, information out of a wide variety of astronomers. They're coming in from around the world. Some of them are beginners. Some of them are very experienced. We got a 4-hour class in Pix Insight in 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Um, you know,
A quick demonstration from Gary.
it was really cool. It was really cool, and we got to see a Galileo scope work with Gary Palmer's image of the moon with it. So that was very cool as well. So Gary says it was a great night. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I got to sleep. Oh my
Yeah.
God! Sorry, dude.
So
He's all turned upside down.
right.
Let's see who's on with us today. We've got Michael Whitaker from the UK. And of course, Gary Palmer's from the UK. Bergman Scooter says, good day, everybody. Wolfgang in Germany. He says, next week I'm in vacation from Wednesday, and then he stays without internet at a Bortle 3 camping place. That's going to be fun.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to concentrate
Right?
on that.
It's good for you to get away from the internet sometimes.
Just think about that one thing instead of everything else that's going on.
That's right. That's right. Nicholas says it was a hard day at work after the VSP last night. That's true. But you're an astronomer, Nicholas. You got to buck it up.
That's right. You gotta
right.
do what you need to do to make it
Power
happen.
through the night, work hard all day.
I struggled for several years when I first got into this about 12 years ago again, and it just because I was just passionate about doing it as many times once or twice a week, going out there
yeah.
until 2 in the morning.
I had when I first started and really got hooked, I had a 13-inch Coulter Dobsonian, and I just left it in the backyard. I just put a tarp over it because every time I got back from work, and at this point I'm working at OPT, okay, I'm selling telescopes all day long, and I just go, but now I'm starting to find objects on my own. I'm starting to really enjoy it, and I would just pull off the tarp. I would have my dinner and then just go right back on to the patio and observe the night sky. And
Right.
at that time in North San Diego County, it was still pretty dark, so.
My secret on that, the reason I was able to do this much work is I stopped watching TV.
Oh yeah,
I
TV's
basically
such a
said
waste.
I'm not going to watch TV anymore,
No.
and I delved into the hobby.
Yeah, TV's a waste. It's just so. When I see television, if I'm in a motel room or something and I flip on the television, I realize why I don't watch TV, because the crazy commercials and stuff, and it's just kind of empty programming. It's not really,
It's filler. Feels like a bunch of filler.
Yeah.
It's like a time waste.
Now,
What it is.
there are sometimes some really interesting programs on, documentaries. Some great movies come on sometimes. Something that's really truly entertainment, and that's when TV is at its best. But when it's just I don't know.
Well, people really have an advantage today where they can search for things that they want to watch instead of having to wait for the programming to bring it to you. That was a big thing when we grew up. We had to wait to see stuff that was interesting.
That's true. Yeah, I remember. You remember they would have world premieres of movies on television, and it was an event. I mean, out of your 3 or 4 channels that you could watch, it was
Right.
You get out the TV guide, and it was like, holy smokes, Elvis's comeback world premiere. It's like, wow. So that was really cool. That was a huge event for sure. Richard Gray says, made it. Pix Insight had to finish. Kerchunking. Howdy, y'all. Kerchunking. Wolfgang says his mom has there a camping lodge. Well, gosh, Wolfgang, we're going to have to visit sometimes.
That'd be cool.
Wade Prunty says hello. Eduardo Simone. Hello, all yet from another cloudy day in South Jersey. Tim Meyer says, cool intro. It was a cool intro. You know, all those inspired young people that worked on the Mars rover programs is so awesome. Dusty Haskins says, hello, everybody. We hope you're feeling better, Dusty. You know, saw you posted your M27 shot. That's really cool. Scott Eden says, happy Wednesday. And Wade says he imaged until 6 o'clock in the morning and was back at it at 8 a.m. Now that is an astronomer right there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
You only need 4 hours of sleep. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Richard Gray says, no sooner than I had put the lens cap on for darks, the haze rolled in, and last night went perfect. The weather just held out. That's awesome. That means you got good karma. Mike Lima says hello. Mr. Thumb 30 says hello. Astro Beard says he took the box back years ago. Yes, the TV box. And it was a box too. Wolfgang says he stopped watching TV since 20 years ago. You know, there's a lot of people, they call it the zero television generation. Zero TV. That's what they call it. Brett Blake says hello to Thump 30. Yeah. Ken Noble says, come on, TV brought us Star Trek and Doctor Who. Hey, I am saying that there was some stuff that was entertaining. That's true. But not all of it. Michael Whitaker, bad night last night. PMC-8 just would not track for some reason. 10-second exposures were like someone had kicked the mount. First time this happened. Tracks beautiful normally. What do you think?
Well, generally I could say something changed.
Something changed.
Something, whether this could be flexure related. We need more
Power?
details on.
How about power?
On what power? Yeah, that's exactly one of the things I wanted to bring up in the forum. Somebody was having problems with the ratcheting issue, which typically, if everything else is good, it's either a binding issue or a balance issue with the mount. When you have ratcheting, when it won't track right, that type of thing. But that's typically showing up when it slews, or it could be when it's tracking. But in flexure, it seems like I need to have a little bit more information. Does he say if it was just at the wrong rate?
No, he just said it wouldn't track. He says, bad night last night.
It
PMC-8
was turned off. It
just
wouldn't track
would
at all.
not track for some reason. 10-second exposures were like someone had kicked the mount. First time this happened, tracks beautiful normally. So is that because somehow maybe he's using ExploreStars and it's in point instead of track mode?
Well, that'll cause the any polar alignment error that causes declination drift. That'll show the drift the drift will show up in the image.
Yeah.
If that's what he's talking about. But that's if he's got a poor polar alignment, depending on how long the exposures are also. But if it wouldn't track, I'd have to see the
10
image.
seconds is a big gap of no tracking. So
yeah, so the tracking got turned off. So in ExploreStars, the tracking is always on as long as you're at an object. If you slew to an object, the tracking comes on automatically. The only time the tracking is turned off is when you park the mount. Now, if for example, you slew to an object and you were tracking, and then all of a sudden it stopped, it could be that the PMC-8 reset for some reason and went back to like it powered down and powered back up momentarily and rebooted the processor. The motor counts go back to 0 and it does not track. So you'll see that, but you'll see that indication on the ExploreStars application where it says the OTA coordinates. If you've slewed to an object and it looks like it's okay where the OTA coordinates match the target coordinates, you know you're on the target. But all of a sudden, if you notice it, and the OTA says it looks like it's back to the North Celestial Pole, but you're supposed to be at a target, then you know that the system reset itself for some reason. Either the power dropped out momentarily, or some other glitch happened on the communications that caused the reboot.
Yeah.
So that I need to know more information about that.
Yeah, Michael, maybe you can get with us and we can troubleshoot maybe your power system or something like that. You should be able to duplicate it if it's, you know, I mean,
Right. It should be
something. You know, it
if
sounds
it's a
like some sort
failure
of
for sure.
hardware-related type of issue to me. You know, whether it's power or something else. So, yeah. But you know, question I would have right off the top: are you using AC power, you know, battery power, you know, those kinds of things. Um, you know, I just had to repair. You know, I have an Airstream trailer, and we had to do some repair work on the power cable going to the Airstream. You know, and so that was something that was befuddling me at first, and we got it figured out. But
Power is something that when people first get into astrophotography, you know, they worry about their auto guiding and they worry about their mount and their camera systems. But power is one of them things that are just basically like infrastructure where you kind of pay lip service to it in some respects. You just go with whatever you have that comes from the manufacturer. You don't really think about what your integrated power
yeah,
system is going to be when you build your whole system up.
yeah.
Uh, it's a piecemeal thing, you know,
And you don't want to
as you,
cheap out. You know, Brett Blake says check the cables. Those are the first things to go. You know, if you can buy better cables, stuff like that, you know, better than what even the manufacturer's supplying to you, no matter if it's us or someone else, you know, get it, you know, because
right,
that's
right.
that's going to be the pulse of your system. So um, so that's something. Um, let's see. People are still talking about TV. I watch TV sometimes, but only The Simpsons. Yeah, well, that's quality programming. I mean, come on, it is. I love Bart. Uh, Scott Eden says, I'd rather do science than watch TV.
Yeah, me too.
Wolfgang says, ever since they stopped showing Laurel and Hardy, no more TV. I think Laurel and Hardy was a little bit before television or just before TV, something like that.
But
Anyways,
you can find it on YouTube now. So
yeah,
you can watch all the Laurel and Hardy you want.
yeah. Gary Palmer says, I never watch television. Advertising breaks are longer than the clouds over the UK.
Yeah, they've gotten pretty onerous.
Yeah,
Even on YouTube channels, they've gotten pretty bad.
yeah. And Wolfgang asked Michael Whitaker to check the point versus the tracking mode. So there's something to look at. Chuck Lewis says hello. Gary Palmer says sleep all you want when you're dead. Oh my God. Make the most of it while you're alive. Gary,
Yeah.
you probably don't sleep much. I don't think, you know, so I've called him all kinds of hours and the dude's still awake.
I don't know if it's something when you get older or not, but what I've found is I do actually need less sleep now than when I was younger. Although I used to, in my career, I used to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then since I've worked at home, since coming to work for Explore Scientific, I've reverted back to a natural sleep cycle where I stay up later at night and get up later in the morning. That's my natural. I'm a night owl anyway, so. But and then my sleep, I maybe sleep 4 or 5 hours a night probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I sleep about 4 to 5 on average. And then it kind of catches up with me and I need about 8 after that. So Dusty Haskins says, I'll watch Netflix because I don't have to sprint to pee between commercials. Do we say pee on television? Pee on live streaming? I don't think so. Mike Wiesner, he's watching today. I prefer listening to the old time radio. The Lone Ranger, X-1. I never heard of that one. Jack Benny, love the man. He's awesome.
That's something you can always do when you're observing is listen to music or listen to things that you want. It's kind of nice to have it on in the background. And
that's true.
And while you're observing, you know, you can do two things at once in that regard.
when you go into David Levy's observatory at the Jarnac, he always has classical music playing in the background. It's pretty cool. And it's on 24/7. I mean, you go out there at any time and it's on. Tim Myers, every time I've had a similar issue, I've found something that I did to cause it. I have to learn to take a deep breath, shut everything down, and work back through my startup routine. Yeah, same thing with me, Tim. When I run into problems, it's the same deal.
That's kind of a key thing we talked about a little bit yesterday, that there's a methodical step-by-step process that you have to understand to make the connections work, to make all the communications come together, to make the system work correctly. There's a bunch of components that are involved with making it work to end, right? So it's a system. It's not just an individual
Well, it's like
component.
you're going to go. I mean, you're a pilot, Jerry. I mean, what do you do before you get the plane in the air?
Oh yeah, you do.
You just go in there and just fire it up and go?
Yeah,
no.
It's like your car, right? You jump in your car and you just start it up and take off right where you're at. Yeah, no, it's a big it's a process. It's a procedure. And if you get that in your mind, that this is a procedural type of activity, and you don't buck it, people, everybody that's a tech guy likes to just jump in and start messing with stuff and using it, but there's times when procedures and reading material is important to really get the most and understand the quickest way to get things working is to take advantage of any information that you have, reading materials and procedures. And that's one thing I include in my first book, Scientific Astrophotography. I've got a whole chapter with a bunch of different procedures they may look a little anal. They're nuclearized type of procedures that step by step through how to set up your equipment, how to do your imaging. But it gives you a guide, kind of like a cookbook to get started with and understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When they went to when Apollo went to the moon, I think there was a checklist as well.
Oh, there's hundreds of checklists.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Just like at the nuclear station, we had thousands of procedures.
Where go. So.
Yeah, we did the same thing at the nuclear station. We had thousands of procedures when we're going testing and everything. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But, that's the difference between having something that's really automatic and you driving it versus just get in, turn it on, and get there, So that's the reason personally, if I'm driving, if I'm driving for enjoyment, I like a manual transmission, and it's just, I've got all the controls, I like that, it's cool. If I'm driving long distance, though, I like automatic stuff, so
yeah,
taking the air.
I've had a manual transmission for the last 30 years. I don't think I've got cars that have automatic. I've got a Suburban and all, but all my cars, my sports cars I've had over the last 30 years have always had manual transmission. My current one is a 14 Mustang GT California Special. Is the car I have now. It's only got 37,000 miles on it, and it's 6 years old, 7 years old almost.
Well, you take care of them. Scott Eden says, my Exos 2 PMC8 comes tomorrow, and I'm pretty stoked. That's awesome. Let us know.
So we got dealers that are
started. So what's that?
We got dealers that are still delivering, even though we're out of stock.
Yeah. Some dealers, some dealers like to drop ship, from our inventory. Other dealers like to stock it up. The ones that stock it up, we'll still have inventory often. So we are currently out of those mounts, so they sold out. Gary Palmer, when mine moves to a solar system object, it won't track till I move the mount in a direction. But it's not star-lined, but it is not star-lined in that mode. Yeah, well, Gary, maybe you want to do...
He slewed to it? He slewed to the object?
Yeah, he says when he moves to a solar system object, it won't track till I move the mount in a direction. So like he's got to press north, south, east, or west?
That should, as soon as it starts to slew to an object, the tracking should come on. So I don't know what that's about. That's really odd.
Yeah, Gary, we're going to have to look at
I'll
that
have to think
closer.
about that.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have to get with us and we'll figure that
I
out.
wonder if other users have seen that.
I don't know.
Uh,
It would be nice to know. It'd be nice to know.
yeah.
So, Gary, maybe you can write down exactly what you're doing when you first start, and we can look at that. Chuck Stoss says, "I've had this before. It's a glitch, and a reset fixes it." Again, yeah, we need to know more.
Yeah.
Michael Whitaker, he says the OTA was showing NAH or NAN on the coordinates at one time, powered straight from the electricity.
Yeah, NAN, that means that's database speak for not a number, which means it's some weird value that's not valid for that use or for that type of variable that's in the program. So what happens is that when you do an alignment, okay, the transform is calculated, and so any motor counts are transformed into that new right ascension and declination value. Okay, that's the transform. So when you park the mount, it's at 90 degrees declination. Okay, which is a hard. So when you do a trigonometric function at 90 degrees, and you've got an offset, it comes up with a weird value. Okay, so when you park the mount, that's when I've seen it happen. Is when you park or you're near the celestial pole. That's when it'll come up, and
Well, the lines
basically
right
the calculation
just like
they come together and it gets a difficult calculation, and the calculation blows up is what it is.
I see.
So
because it's too
when
close
you're near
to the
the
pole.
Yeah, when you're near the pole, just discount the value. Don't worry about it. It's not. I know it's hard.
But that value should not affect tracking, right?
No, it doesn't.
Right.
So by the time you get off the pole a little bit in declination, it should come back and show you a valid number. But that's the only time I've ever really seen it have a blown up number is when you're near the North Celestial Pole and you have an alignment in the system.
Richard Gray says he uses 180 amp hours of LiFePO4 and Anderson power poles. I don't know what
That's a big battery.
poles are. Yeah, good.
That's a lot of power.
He said he'll show us his power supply in a coming show. That'll be great. Michael Whitaker, thanks, guys. I think it was just a really bad night. Chuck Stoss says, I'm waiting for my 75-inch to be delivered. 75-inch what? Oh, my God.
Is that focal length or is that objective size?
Yeah. Ken Noble says, make a list of what you do and you'll never go wrong. Gary Palmer says, temperature change makes a big change to a mount's power draw. This also applies to cooled cameras. Don't run cameras, mounts, and do heaters off the same power supply, as it can make the mount skip and reset. I always run the mount separate to other equipment. That's a good idea. Mike Wiesner says, X-1 and Dimension X were science fiction radio shows. They dramatize many classic stories. Sounds like that's where they got the X-Files from. James the Astrophotographer says he's still at work but enjoying listening. Chuck Stoss says, if anything goes wrong, always go back and recheck everything, or you just waste time. That's true.
Yeah, it's always good policy to just start from scratch instead of jumping in the middle of something and just thinking it's one thing or another. Because unless you know you've changed something, you won't really know where to start if the problem just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Wolfgang says about polar alignment, I guess there is a need to show how to do it with pictures through the polar scope. He'd like to have through the polar scope video, so special beginners understand. Actually, doing a video through the polar scope is not that easy. You would actually, we would have to create an animation, and that's possible, and it's our list to do from our marketing department, but they're not there yet. So, but we will get it. Let's see. Edward Simone says, "I can see Jerry burning up rubber on the Mustang GT. How many gears can you make them smoke them through?"
Well, I got a tuner on it, so I boosted the horsepower to 460 horsepower, so it's
What?
got about 400 horsepower to the wheels.
Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah, it'll get a wheel in third gear.
yeah. Lots of comments here, you guys. Thanks. Tim Myers says, I think he's talking about a 75-inch TV. It's a lot of aperture for a TV, man. Yeah. Richard Gray says, I drove my car with no alternator from VW on my power supply. And David Ing says, joining late again. This work thing keeps getting in the way. That's right. And Jennifer Shelley says, Dave, I'm in the same boat. Well, we're kind of still sort of at the beginning of our show here, so we didn't really get into it much. We did talk a little bit about the Virtual Star Party 3. I do want to talk already about Virtual Star Party 4. On Virtual Star Party 4, we have a special guest. It's going to be Kelly Beatty from Sky and Telescope magazine, so that'll be really cool.
Nice,
He wants to talk about the state of amateur astronomy today. And, so from the guys at Sky and Telescope, it's going to be pretty interesting. So, you'll have David Levy and Kelly Beatty on the same program. It'll be very cool. And we got more people coming. So
Scott's great at attracting celebrity in the industry.
Right.
He's really good. He's a celebrity himself. I hate to say how much of a fanboy I was when I first met him, because
Kelly?
when I first saw him,
yeah, he's the voice of Sky
you.
and Telescope magazine,
I'm talking about you.
Me?
I'm embarrassed to say it.
Oh,
because
man.
I first met
And now
Scott,
look what happened. Look what happens.
I read about.
I'll put you to work, dude.
When you first started
You get to
Explore Scientific.
Yeah, you say that you're a fan of mine, I'll put you to work. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when I saw you picture with your daughter in the first telescope that you created when you first started Explore Scientific in the magazine, and I read about your company, I said, I got to follow that guy. I know he's going to be going somewhere. So,
that's cool.
and then I met you at NEAF, and I thought it was great. So I can understand
I'm blushing.
people. It's funny because I experienced the same thing.
Yeah. You can see now. I mean, you're on with me live every day, so people are gonna start stalking you. That's right.
Yeah, it's stalking. That's when you worry about it.
Mike Wiesner says he was at the 2017 solar eclipse with Kelly Beatty, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Eduardo says Scott's using this show to rope in the big names for his show. Yeah, let's go. That's right. And get that Musk guy on and tell him how he's ruining it for everybody. Ooh. I think Elon Musk actually wants to work with amateur astronomers and astronomers in general. He loves science, so.
Yeah, I think he's done a lot more than other companies, like unnamed companies like Boeing and Northrop would do to accommodate people. I mean, he's put these sunshades on his satellites, and he's doing the best he can, but he's also after a big goal, which is, think about providing internet to all over the world to people that don't have access.
That's true.
That's an important goal too,
Yes, it is. Yeah. The internet, just like the internet has transformed our lives, in the developed world. If you go to a third world country, and I have, to see people that really, were very unfortunate in their lives, to be able to communicate and be educated from other people from around the world and instantly communicate, whether it was their plight or, news things that normally would never see the light of day, okay, be instantly captured and shared all over the world, it is changing governments and just it's creating a global community. It'll take time for it to be uh, for it to be you know to the point of maybe we never get to a utopian world, but it is a better world than it was. We hear more problems than we ever did because you take your smartphone and
Right.
you're videotaping the injustices of the world and can share it. So
Right.
Beverly Selesky says hello from Detroit. How you doing, Beverly? That's great. Tim Meyer says might be surprised at his willingness to attend. Well, we can always ask him. I don't know how to reach him, so I don't know. Wolfgang says about the show, for me, it's not important the giveaway prizes. I am happy to see you guys, and that's why I join so often, as often as I can. Well, we really love to have you on watching the show too, Wolfgang. You're going to have to join us on the virtual star party, and there's a way that you can do it. What you do is you go to explorescientific.com/events, and you will see that there is a page there for the virtual star party. You have to buy a ticket, but the ticket price is free. It's $0. And so you you go on there and you get a download of a sheet that shows you the star party rules, okay, and
I
the
can
login
bring
to
it
the
up.
waiting room, okay. And from there, Kent Martz or someone like him will be waiting for you, and will give you the Zoom meeting credentials to go onto the broadcast show. And that's how we make sure that you got good enough lighting, fast enough internet speed, good video, good audio, and something to talk about with astronomy. We don't want you selling, we don't want you selling paper cups or something.
Yeah.
So, right?
I've got it up on I've got it up on my desktop if you want
Okay.
to show it real quick.
Yeah, there it is. So $0, and I'll change the embedded video, the Star Party, to the latest one. But we do have featured guests, which are people that come to us or associated with us, and we know that they're going to give a more or less. They already have a program ready to go. But if you got, you want to spend 5 minutes or so talking about your telescope, your system, how astronomy might have changed your life, or you want to share, your live image or something like that, or even read like poetry, like David Levy does, then that's very cool, So Gary Palmer says, give him an ED-165 for a Tesla if he comes on. So there we go. Yeah. So anyhow, from the OpenGOTO community forum, you mentioned there's some beginner activity that's on there, and there was some questions or some thoughts about expectations of what the ExploreStars app is.
Right, exactly. There's some conversations about why doesn't ExploreStars do this or do that, or I'd like to see it look more like ASI Air in terms of some of the functionality. So in general, I guess beginners, they buy the product, they buy an iExos 100 or an Exos 2, and then they say, oh, I need to download this application. They don't really have any real expectations about what it's going to do for them. The manual talks about the how to operate the mount and how to use ExploreStars, but it doesn't really get heavy into the functionality and why you would want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people come into this hobby. They may have already been using a telescope system for a while. That's a basic system, a manual system. Then they buy their first go-to system, or they may have some experience with other go-to systems and they know how they work, right? And so they assume that all the go-to systems work the same. So they don't really understand the philosophy behind the design of the PMC-8 control system and the ExploreStars. They don't what we've done to separate what the architecture of the system is, really how we've separated out the mount controller from the application, which was all in previous traditional mount systems are all integrated into their one hand box, right? So, and then what features are available there on the ExploreStars app, since this is a lot of people don't understand that this is Explore Scientific's first foray into a go-to mount system.
Right.
We were late to the game compared to all the other manufacturers, pretty much, except maybe Ioptron. But Ioptron's been they were founded as a mount.
The very first guys was Vixen with the sky sensor back in '84 or '85, something like that. So it's been a while, and
right.
and go-to systems and ahead of that were mostly on professional observatories or amateurs who probably were aerospace engineers or working with precision motion controllers back
right.
in the day, so
like Russ Genet and those guys that built their own systems from scratch, basically.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of that stuff at RTMC years and years ago and going, wow, I think this is the future, so. Thomas Mathis was another early developer of that stuff.
Right, Mark Trueblood, I got to visit him out in Arizona. He was a pioneer and wrote a couple of books in the 80s on microcomputer control of telescopes.
I remember that book.
I was fortunate enough to visit him. I gave him one of my books, and he signed my copy of his book. That was kind of cool a few years ago. But so people have certain expectations when they come into it, what mount control systems do, maybe, and it's different. We try to be different and be more advanced in terms of what we're able to do going forward also. And there's questions about what features we include and what features we don't. So basically I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes with those beginners, if they happen to watch this show, to say, yes, our system is different. It's designed differently. The architecture is totally different. It's more of an industrial design control system as opposed to a traditional consumer level mount control system.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Well, I promised that we would talk about since astronomical equipment like tents, camping gear, and trampolines have become scarce because of our time spending our time with hobbies, as it were, with COVID. I wanted to talk about Explore Scientific's Truss tube Dobsonians. We do have all the models in stock, including going all the way up to a 20-inch f3.6 truss tube Dobsonian. But I wanted to show some of the components of the truss tube Dobsonians and the way that they're constructed. Some of the design principles that are in it as well. You can see, a very different secondary collimation system that does tilt and adjustment for the secondary mirror. These are all no tool knobs. It makes it very easy to make these adjustments. So, whether you're using a star to do your collimation with the, and I should show at one point how you do the primary mirror, because we have this wand that goes down and the adjustment bolts are adjusted from the top down instead of going to the back of the scope. So you're not running from the back of the scope to the eyepiece to go check or to go back and forth, or taking two people to do a collimation, so.
In the nuclear world, we called that a reach rod.
A reach rod.
So you could stand back and turn valves and stuff without getting close to the radiation source. You could, have a 6-foot tool to turn knobs or turn valves or whatever. That's a reach rod.
Yeah, and it's got a little plastic tip on it so that you don't scratch the mirror, for example, if you touch the mirror. So.
Yeah, that's an important feature.
But they're well made. I think the thing that was sort of unexpected for me, because I take these things out to star parties, and you're taking them out of your vehicle. Oftentimes, when I was doing the star parties cross country, I would drive 1,000 miles to get to California from Arkansas, and I would pull it out and just assemble it. It has again, it's all no tool knobs. Put the trusses on and everything. I would drop in an eyepiece, and more often than not, that thing was still collimated or very nearly collimated. So, and that was kind of an unexpected benefit of the design. The truss tube Dobsonians were designed by an amateur astronomer in Germany. This is where the origin of the design is. And, so it's kind of cool. It's got many cool, innovative features on it. Aside from being very portable and transportable, I'm able to move the 20-inch by myself, although the mirror part of that is heavy.
The mirror box is very heavy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We also have a platform here, and I made sure that we had this platform the right size so that you can add a Telrad base. You can take this piece off and add a Telrad base to it if you want to. Anyways, that's the secondary cage. They're all pretty much the same kind of design from the 10-inch one, which is this particular one, up to the 20-inch. You're also going to get a rack and pinion dual speed focuser, 2-inch eyepiece holder with an 1.25-inch adapter if you have any of those little eyepieces. So that's it. That's that part for today. We'll talk about another one tomorrow. And that kind of brings us to our the news. What's in the news, Jerry?
Yeah, I just switched over to that page. Let me share my desktop again here. So I found an interesting article, again from Science News. So an asteroid's moon got a name so NASA can bump it off its course. That's
So NASA's going to bump off a moon.
It's going to bump off a moon, which is, I don't know if they got a hit job,
It's like hit job. That's right. It's got a contract out on it.
Right, exactly. Somebody got a contract on this little moon.
Aw.
So this practice deflection is a test case to protect the Earth. So they're actually going to try to see how much they can impact the, no pun intended, the orbit of this little satellite of an asteroid. So this little satellite of an asteroid, which I don't know if a lot of people understand, that asteroids are really more of a jumble of rocks, okay, kind of gravitationally
like a bunch
bound.
Of boulders.
Like a bunch of boulders and gravel and stuff, all just stuck together, but they're not really physically stuck together. It's just by the little bit of gravity that's holding them close. So whenever something hits them, it's easy to spawn off one of these little satellites that stays close to the original group of rocks, but just orbits around it. And that's what a lot of asteroids are like that. So a newly christened Dimorphos is a tiny space rock with a big target on his back.
Dimorphos?
Dimorphos.
That's its name?
Yep, that's its name. The International Astronomical Union gave the rock an official name on June 23rd for a unique reason. It has been marked for the first ever asteroid deflection mission. A NASA spacecraft will ram into it, Dimorphos, on purpose to alter its path through space. Although Dimorphos is not at risk of striking Earth, its nearness to the planet makes it a prime testing ground for a technique to ward off dangerous asteroids in the future. Dimorphos is a moonlet asteroid that orbits a larger asteroid known as Didymos. I guess that's how you pronounce that, Didymos.
Why do they make these names so difficult?
Well, they're Greek names, a lot of them. They are hard to pronounce sometimes.
Yes.
Until now, the moonlet has gone by cute nicknames only, like Didymoon or ugly designation, the number.
Yeah.
Or its new moniker, Dimorphos, is Greek for having two forms, in honor of the two different trajectories it will have before and after the spacecraft knocks it askew. At just 160 meters across, about the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, Dimorphos is one of the smallest objects to earn an official name from the IAU. NASA will launch the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART. It's kind of a neat acronym. Spacecraft in July 2021 to crash land on Dimorphos in September 2022, about 11 million kilometers from Earth. The collision should nudge Dimorphos into a tighter orbit around Didymos, a change that's much easier to measure than knocking a solar asteroid into a slightly different orbit around the sun. It would take a long time to determine if the orbit changed if they actually tried to do a large asteroid or one that's 1 or 2 kilometers maybe.
Yeah. You already have
So
pretty good comments about your news here. Tim Meyer says, I bet Jimmy Hoffa's buried there. John says the Witness Protection Program name.
yeah,
That's right. David
yeah.
Ing says, die, Morpheus, die.
Dimorphos, yeah.
Yeah, Morpheus.
Uh-huh.
And then Eduardo Simone says, wouldn't it be funny if they impacted and made the course actually head towards Earth? Yeah. That would be.
Well, yeah, the size of it is not very big, so I don't think it would matter a whole lot. I mean, you might get it. It might be, I don't know how big the, remember that meteorite, the asteroid that turned into a meteor that came in from over Russia that
Oh, yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, that was cool.
I don't know how big that thing was, but I imagine it was maybe smaller than this. Dimorphos currently orbits Didymos once every 12 hours. By hitting it with DART, you're actually changing the orbital period enough by, say, 10 minutes or 20 minutes, which could be observed even from the ground. Telescopes on Earth will track the immediate aftermath of the crash, and the European Space Agency will send its Hera probe to Dimorphos in 2024 to ensure that the moonlit asteroid is following its intended path. I'm curious to see how much control they think they have over its intended path. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Fascinating.
Depiction of it. Most interesting.
Most interesting. Yeah,
Evil does seek to maintain power by suppressing the truth.
Thank you, Spock. That's great. Anyways, well, I don't think that we have anything more, from our audience. Eduardo Simone makes a comment. He says, that's why I went with the system, the PMC-8. I used a Meade AutoStar and wasn't too happy with it, and came across Explore Scientific, and the OpenGOTO system intrigued me. Putting the code out there so others can program it or just fiddle with it was a different approach than other companies. That is, we did that because, we want the PMC-8 to have extremely long life, so, there, unfortunately, sometimes companies come and go, but in the amateur astronomy world, you'll see lots of legacy equipment still out there. There's still lots of optical Craftsman telescopes in use, Cave Astrolas, Clark refractors. These telescopes don't die, so while the optics can live on and on, what you would see a lot of is, kind of clever electronic systems that don't get support anymore or weren't built to last anyhow. We built this electronic system to last for a very long time, and it is the OpenGOTO community that holds the reins of the operating system. So that's really, I think that's very important, and so that's when you develop a product like that. Do you just care about your brand and what you're doing and how much money that you made, or are you, kind of more proud that you put out something out there that'll be used for a very, very long time, no matter what? Okay.
Right.
And
right.
that's kind of where I come from with this kind of
Scott.
stuff.
So. When Scott approached me originally back in 2013 is when we started on this path. Those were the two requirements. Were he wanted it very reliable. Almost nuclear reliable.
Yeah.
And he wanted it to be open source, and share as much as we can about the system and bring others into the development of it. And I think we're well on our way on the path for that. And we're taking suggestions every day from our forum, and we're adding them into our plans.
Yeah.
And I think over the next few years, you'll see that this whole system will come to fruition as maybe further than what Scott actually saw at the beginning.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, my dream is that it just takes a life of its own. So that's the deal. Astrobeard wanted to know, did I do a question? No, I'm not doing a question on this show today. But maybe tomorrow, maybe we'll do something. And Jennifer Shelley says, Jerry, what is your vision for the PMC8 system in 10 years?
In 10 years, and I've talked to Scott about the hardware. So there's two pieces of it. There's the hardware and then there's the software. The hardware, for me, I'd love to see us grow this system into a multi-channel, full-blown observatory control system, where we manipulate all the things that we need to in the observatory, the dome, the weather system, the mount of source, any cameras, we need. I'd like to see us provide a complete turnkey observatory control system that's an industrial level performance and margin and reliability. That includes some special features that would be integrated in the hardware and also software in terms of real-time monitoring and dynamic communications between the system and the user and us. Basically, kind of like an ecosystem of communications that allows everybody to understand the real-time performance of their system. That's one of the things I did in the nuclear world when I was in my career, was to do real-time monitoring of instrumentation systems for performance purposes, to understand when failures occur, to be able to predict failures. That's a big thing. You don't want to have forced outages. You want to be able to see when things start to degrade in terms of operations and performance, so that you can take care of it on a schedule instead of having to be forced into it.
Right, going to a fire.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We want to avoid these crisis management scenarios. So in 10 years, I could see us having hardware that supports all that type of stuff, and the software systems included.
Yep. Yeah, some nice comments here. Tim Meyer says, I saw Jerry give a talk on the PMC8 system he was developing 3 years ago, and thought, this is the way it needs to be done. He said, I never dreamed I would actually end up with one. Nicholas Rochia says, wait for me. In a few months, I have vacations, and I want to use them to see the code. Yeah, that's cool. If you're a coder, we want you in, man. Eduardo Simone, I'm a huge advocate and recommend the system to anyone looking for a new mount. Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Michael Whitaker, as long as you don't leave the small guy behind. We are one of the small guys.
Yeah, right. Maybe he's talking about the PMC8 IXOS 100. We actually developed the highest level of technology to push down.
Yeah, it was always our goal to take, that kind of higher end performance and push it down into something that was very affordable for our opening price point products, because we want people to get started. So Jennifer Shelley says, Jerry, that's awesome, and I volunteer to be a beta tester anytime you need one. Thank you very much. That's great. And then Eduardo says no surprises, and Dusty says, Jerry, did you guys ever use the company OSI out of Minnesota?
And the nuclear side, that company name sounds familiar, but I don't recall specifically. I'd have to research them a little bit to see if we did.
Mm-hmm. Chuck Lewis says you have some guts to go out with open source, but you will be known as leaders. Well, we will be, the whole community, the OpenGOTO community will be known as the leaders because they're the ones that are doing it. We want to make the hardware that your imagination plays on. So that's what we're after. David Ing says, I took this from Dylan O'Donnell, but it would be nice to have a spiral slew search feature when trying to dial in a GoTo to find your target in the Finder or eyepiece or camera. Actually, we did that same thing at Meet Instruments, and that is a cool feature. So, So anyhow, thanks for all your comments, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the show today. We are already an hour into the program. I wanted to, I hope that you guys join us next Tuesday for the Virtual Star Party 4 with Kelly Beatty and David Levy and, our cast of international astronomers. We'd like to see some women astronomers join on board. So if you are so inclined,
maybe Jennifer would want to share her.
Yeah, if you're not
she's
shy
got
to
a
be on
G11.
camera and would share your story, that would be so cool. We have, I like to show art on the program, and I like to show, I like to have poetry on the program because there's, to try to evoke the feeling of exploration in space and understanding astronomy is important. So I had last night I had a collection of Carlos Hernandez space art that I called Space Places, so I'll leave you with a little short video of his images, his art, and we will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And until then, keep looking up, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.